Hello, my name is Chuck Bertrand, retired member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, having served 28 years in the force, 23 of them in the Yukon Territory. I am also the author of the book, Constable for Life, Chronicles of a Canadian Mountie. At this time, I would like to tell you one of the stories from the book, and the title is Discretion versus Valor. I'm going to take you back now to the year 1977. The location is Fort McMurray, Alberta. I had recently been transferred to McMurray from Ottawa, guarding the tulips in Ottawa. Now the reason for my transfer, well, that's another story in the book. Now the tar sands, or Fort McMurray, and known as tar sands today, at that time was a frontier town. The population of McMurray was approximately 15,000. But 20 miles north, they were building the tar sands, and there was 20,000 men working. And on the weekends, well, a lot of them would come into town for parties and lots of going on. Well, I was working an evening shift. It was a Friday night, about 7 o'clock. When the dispatcher called and said there's a disturbance at the Riviera Motel, at the bar. Somebody's refusing to leave. Well, I was close by and I indicated I'd go. Dispatcher said, "Hey, Chuck, Constable Bertrand, I don't know if there's going to be any backup for 10, 15 minutes. Members are all tied up." I said, "Well, I'll go and check it out." So I drove over and I pulled up to the front, stepped out, and there on top of the steps was this guy in a black muscle shirt, muscles bulging, tattoo on his arm saying how much he loved his mother, and I reckon that was the bouncer. I came up, and as I came up the stairs, he takes a look at me, and then he goes and he looks side to side, and he says, "Where's the others?" And I says, "The others?" "Yeah, the other members. Where are they? We're going to need them." And he says, "What you see is what you get." And he looked down at my 156-pound frame and kind of went, "Okay, good luck." Well, into the bar we went. Now, the Riviera at that time was an L-shaped bar. And as I entered into the bar, there was lots of noise going on, people drinking, smoking, and I walk in, and all of a sudden there's a silence that starts to spread. And also people parting the ways, just like Moses and the parting of the waters. They're just spreading out of the way. And I walk, and I keep walking forward and coming, and out of the corner my right ear I can hear this belligerent individual screaming and yelling in a forceful manner that it was his pool table and nobody else could play. Well, I round the bend, and there, ladies and gentlemen, is the biggest human being I had ever seen in my life. He would have been approximately 6'7" in size, but it wasn't his height, it was the size. He was like two fridges put together, side by side. His neck was just about the size of my 34-inch waist. He was monstrous. The whole bar was quiet now. And I walked up to this mountain of a man. I looked into his eyes. And he looked at me and I said, "Sir, could you put the pool cue down, please?" And kind of, okay. And then he straightened up. He looked even more massive. And he looked down at me and he says, "Well, what's the problem?" I said, "Well, the establishment has asked you to leave and you refuse to leave. And so I'm asking you to please now leave and everybody can enjoy themselves. No effing way am I leaving, he said. Anyways, where's the other guys? I said, sir, they're going to be here. About 10 men are coming, and they'll be here shortly. Well, I'm not leaving. I said, well, you got to leave, sir. That's it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to arrest you, and I'm going to have to take you out. Okay, arrest me. So as he put his arms out forward like that, I said, sir, you're under arrest. I went forward and I grabbed his arm and I put him in what's called a come-along. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that come-along works really good in training, but not this day. This time, this beast of a man, he lifted me up into the air. And everybody in the bar starts laughing as my feet are dangling and going back and forth. He now, like I'm a trophy, turns around in a 360 and he's holding me up there. And I'm holding on to him. And then I look at him and he looks at me in the eye and I say, do-over. He looks down at me. I said, do-over. He says, do-over? I said, yeah, do-over. Put me down and we'll do it all over again. Okay. And he put me down. Well, I kind of brushed myself off and loosened up a bit. I said, sir, here's the situation. There are 10 Mounties coming. One way or another, you're going to be getting out of here. You could either wait for the 10 Mounties and there's going to be a fight, there'll be a brawl, and eventually we'll get you into jail. You'll have to spend the weekend in jail, go to court on Monday, you may get a criminal record, you'll have all sorts of problems. Or, the alternative is, you walk out with me, peacefully, and I'll drive you anywhere you want to go. You're not going to arrest me? No, I'll drive you anywhere. Do I have to go in the back seat? Sir, you can sit anywhere you want. In fact, you can even drive. Oh, okay. And he did about turn and out we went, the front door and down the steps. I tootled around the car. Now there was a little Nova. Back in '77, the RCMP thought they'd save lots of money by buying these little cars. Very hard to arrest somebody and put them in. Any case, I opened the door, passenger side, and he squeezed in there. Kind of had to push him a little bit, closed the door, got in onto the other side, closed the door, backed out, and drove away. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's when I began to learn that sometimes it's very good to use discretion versus valor. Well, that's one of the stories in the book. If you want more information, check out www.constableforlife.com, or you can get me on email, and the email address is constableforlife@eastlink.ca. I thank you very much, and may the wind be at your back.